thanks for saying yes. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna officially start the show, and I'm gonna look at the camera and say, "Welcome everyone to this week's episode of Trombone Is Enough." My guest today is Claire Haas. Did I say that
Yeah,
right?
that's right. That's right.
Okay, so um, Claire, say hi and tell us where you live right now.
Hi, I'm Claire, and I live in Lisbon, Portugal. Um, that is not where I'm from, but it's where I've ended up for a while, so that's where I am.
How did you get there? What brought you there?
Well, I married an ethnomusicologist, and he got a postdoc here, and so we said, "Okay, let's go there."
Okay.
So that's what landed us here.
Wow. That's that's interesting. Ethnomusicology.
Yeah,
Well, maybe I need to interview him, but he's not a trombonist, so
he's not a
maybe
trombonist. No, he doesn't fit the criteria.
that's not going to qualify. So,
Yeah,
uh,
not for this series.
not for this show.
Yeah,
Um, Still trying to get it so I can see your face without. Yeah, I think that's
there you
fine.
go. Okay.
Like I said, this tapestry is my wife hates it, which is all the more reason to use it. My friend gave it to me in college, and for
Yeah,
years it sat in a box. And when I thought of doing the show, I thought, oh, I'm going to use the backdrop. Um,
that's great.
Silly. So, your husband is an ethnomusicologist,
That's right.
and you're a trombonist.
Yeah, that's right.
So, this is fabulous. Uh, thanks for agreeing to be on the program.
Yeah,
Um, my student and friend April Dalton uh, gave me your name, and
yeah.
I went looking for you and found you. And so, thanks for just agreeing to do all this. Can you tell us like where you're from and what led you to play the trombone?
Oh, that's a great question. So I am originally from Akron, Ohio, in the U.S. And when I was a kid, I picked up the piano first. It was like, third grade. Didn't love my teacher that year. My parents were like, "Would you like to take piano lessons?" And I was like, "Yeah, that sounds great." And so I did that. And then band came around. Because my name is Claire, I thought I was going to play the clarinet. So I went
Ah,
to the instrument tryouts. I picked up the clarinet and it squeaked, and I was like, "No, I don't want this."
yeah.
And my grandfather had played the trombone a little bit. I had a cousin who, played the trombone for a couple of years. So it was kind of on my radar, and it was also just the weirdest instrument. And so I was like, that's what I want. Um, and I feel like they had to peel the trombone out of my hand that day as I tried it. It was just like an instant falling in love with it. And so that was that. And started in fifth grade.
Wow, that's amazing. They had to
Yeah.
peel it out of your hands that day.
Yeah. They were like needed other kids to try it. And I was like, okay, fine, but can I try again in a couple of minutes?
That,
It
that
was
is
pretty
just
instant.
that's amazing that like it chose you that's a solid choice.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
so how did
I
it
often question like, was it really the right instrument? As I see people with smaller cases on their way to gigs, or, the instruments that you can kind of play in more different settings because they're quieter or whatever. But yeah, that's, really the trombone is what I should play.
did you have to walk to school with that
Yeah.
case?
I did not most of the
Okay.
time.
Okay.
My parents were gracious enough to drive me to school, especially in the years when I started needing to carry around more than one trombone at some point.
Oh,
Um,
why
I
wait, don't just gloss over that. Why were
yeah,
you
I
having to carry more than one trombone?
well, and there was a period of time where I was playing. I guess in high school, I got a large bore horn with a F attachment, and I was playing that in like the symphonic band, and then I was playing a pea shooter in the jazz band as I was playing lead. And so on for those last couple years of high school, I probably was carrying two trombones to and from school fairly
Okay,
often.
I
And
see.
then I joke more about the time in college where I say my degree in music made me very qualified to open and get through doors while carrying a lot of things, because there were years where I was playing a pea shooter and a jazz ensemble, that same large bore F attachment horn in a symphonic band. And then I got assigned to play bass trombone in a bunch of things too.
Oh, geez.
There were literally days when I was like figuring out how to coordinate three trombones and mutes for all of them.
Oh, geez. The mutes for bass trombones are huge.
Huge. Right. And our lockers were like in a different building. I was next door, but like we had to walk to that building, I don't know why they moved our lockers over there and not just like the flutes and clarinets, but the idea was that we would have these nice new practice rooms and be able to be loud in this other building whenever we wanted. But then, like, we were just carrying all this stuff and had to walk all down all these hallways to get to the where the ensembles rehearse. And yeah, there's a lot of carrying stuff and really awkwardly. And I still can do it. I can like juggle all sorts of things and get through doorways. And
I mean, how tall? I can't really tell if you're a large person or a small person or a medium sized. How, when you were a child carrying all this, like how tall were you? And,
I'm now like 5'5". Seventh position is as far as I can reach, right? Like I've got it, but just barely.
okay.
Um, and I was not when I was a kid, I was not a very big person carrying all this stuff.
Yeah. Okay. So I feel like I'm 5'6" and
Yeah.
seventh is my reach.
Yeah.
Uh, so I know the size. I
Yeah.
carried my trombone as I walked to school, and I walked to and from school carrying my trombone and my backpack of books. But
Yeah.
at least you had a ride. But three horns, that's got to be a record. I mean,
I'm sure that there's a bunch of people who've had to do it though. Like that situation just seems like, you get to the place in college where like you can do the things. You're not the top person at all the things, and so you don't get the choice. You just get assigned like, oh, we know you can do this, so here you go. You're gonna play this one, and you're gonna play this one, and
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Did you take all that on in stride, or was
yeah.
there any other feelings that came along with that for you?
That amount of stuff I took on in stride, and that was good and fun. I have other feelings about other moments of college, but um, it wasn't
Anything you
all
want to talk about?
flowers and rainbows.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know that we want to go into that today. Maybe we'll get there, but not yet. But yeah, I'm really glad I got the chance to play bass trombone. Like I feel like lots of people go through their trombone education and don't, if they're not choosing it on purpose, they don't get handed a bass trombone and said and told like, here, go figure this out.
Yeah.
And I'm really glad I got that because it expanded the way that I think about playing
Mm.
and arranging and just like yeah, it was a good expansion for me musically to have that
How did
opportunity.
how did it change the way you the first thing you said I think was arranging? How did that
Yeah,
change?
I
How
think
did playing bass trombone change the way you thought about arranging?
I mean, it got really clear like that grouping of instruments at the low end that get paired up. When you're listening across the ensemble playing bass trombone in like a symphonic band kind of setting, you're listening to bass clarinets and bari saxophones and sometimes bassoons and who knows like what other sets of things in that register. And in the big band, it's like you're paired up with the bass and the bari sax.
Mm.
And so it creates this other um like you can create a voice that's
Mm.
cross instruments that's doing a thing together um at the
Okay.
low end of your musical concept. And
Hmm.
so yeah, and I've done a bunch of playing in like brass band, street brass band kind of ensembles in my adult life. And so thinking about okay, what's happening with the bass line here beyond just like, oh, we have a tuba player who's playing it. Like, can we get a bass trombone? Can we get a bari sax to double it? Can we, what are the possibilities here that can make sort of a richer sound and harmony, right? You can create harmony in the bass range, which is fun.
Yeah, that's something that I guess I hadn't thought of, but there are possibilities with tuba, uh, low brass in general, but also the low woodwinds. Um,
Yeah.
what arranging? I would like to eventually get to what arranging you do, but tell me more about college.
Yeah.
Where did you attend, and what were some like things that were interesting?
Yeah. So I went to Capital University in Columbus, Ohio, which is not super well known, but like pretty solid music school. Kind of tucked in the middle of a line liberal arts college that um at one point I think Capital ranked top in student debt on our ranking. Not a great thing, but I can say that like my musical education there, well, the thing that I'll notice is like as I grew up and reconnected with people that I went to school with, I moved away right after, so I like wasn't around a lot of them immediately in that ongoing period. But we all like there were just musical skills that we all had that were solid, and I knew that I could trust any of the musicians that I went to college with as I played with them or connected with them as adults. And so I think that really speaks to the quality of education we got. I started out as a music ed major, and a number of things made me decide not to continue in that path. Um, and I, as a high school student, I'd never been asked to choose between jazz and classical music.
Mhm.
And in college, I was asked that, and that was always just really awkward, where I was like, no, both. Like, I want to do
Yeah,
all of it. I play the trombone.
yeah.
Um,
How did
and
you
so
deal with it?
I
Yeah.
became a jazz studies major. And then I ended up leaving after 3 years with a Bachelor of Arts in Music. I had enough credits to finish that and get out the door. And that became the right choice for me.
How what tipped the scale in favor of jazz studies versus orchestral?
Um, Honestly, I think it was probably like what the classes were that I needed to take and like who was teaching them and what those requirements were. I wanted to take improvisation and there wasn't really space to do it another way. I wanted to take jazz arranging. I wanted to yeah, have the space of like thinking about learning tunes and the creativity of that side of the
Yeah.
education.
Can you put into words what your early feelings about improvising were?
Mm. Um, I had some of the fear that I think everybody has when they're as a young improviser of being like, oh my goodness, now I have to play something. But I also had this great advantage where I went to this summer camp that was in the Cuyahoga Valley National Park as a kid. And they had like an educational campus where they did environmental studies camps. And for a few weeks in the summer, they had these arts people come in and take over. And we made sculptures of mushrooms and placed them in the forest. And I
Oh,
also learned how to conduct for the first time while I was there. And we created group improvisation pieces and wrote and composed together. And just did a lot of stuff and that was when I was in middle school. And so it gave me a sense of like, okay, well, I know how to do this in some context. And so
yeah.
then as I went on in high school and college and had opportunities to learn how to play over changes and play blues and play rhythm changes and like all these different forms that we learn, it, I think there were lots of ways where I was still nervous, and figuring all of those things out as a young musician, but I also knew that I could come up with something, and that it would be okay. And I'm gonna jump into the present in talking about this. I recently, this year, released an album that's all improvised music.
Oh my gosh, that sounds
Yeah,
really
so
cool.
yeah, and it's not jazz. So it's this is the target audience for it, actually, because I took, the project was initially that I wanted to play the Gaucho etudes in public in the street. I love them. They're beautiful. We don't play them for other people. Other people don't know them. And so I thought about how to stage that, where I would dress in the colors of the city and like play in places that match that. And I was going to play number 1 through 11, because number 12 you have to turn a page in the middle. So that was like how I made the decision, in all these different places and different scenes. And that fell flat on its face,
What?
because like it just wasn't the right thing. Like people weren't interested in it, and so I very quickly shifted to improvising. And so I was holding the ideas of those same 11 etudes, but I was just improvising with the ideas. So I would like open up my book, look at one of them, remember it for a second, and then play ideas, from it.
Whoa.
And um, and I didn't do as many performances as I thought I would. I just did a set of them and called it good enough. But it inspired in me, like, okay, well, I want to actually work out these ideas a bit more. And so I went into a recording studio and I, did a take of each one playing down the page that I'm never going to do anything with.
Oh,
And then I did as many takes as I
scratch.
felt like I need of improvisation ideas off of that. And
Uh,
there was a little bit of a compositional process happening where I would like find what I liked in the thing. And I did it over 2 days. So the first day I recorded everything, and then I spent that night listening to it and thinking, what do I have? And there were some where I was like, these are good takes, but they're all the same. And so then
mm,
the next day I went back and tried to create the more distinctions between the different things.
mm.
And I came up with something that I like. It's not the best. I did all the editing myself too. So like there's lots of ways where it's not the best thing in the world, but it was really an exercise for me in claiming like, I am a musician. I can create music and put it into the world, even if it's not what pays my bills and not what I do all the time. Um, and that can be good enough. So um, I think that some of like connecting it back to the early stuff, like some of my early like work on improvisation led me to be oriented that way as a musician today.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I want to make sure we get the link where we can hear that music so I
Yeah,
can put it in the show. Um,
yeah.
uh,
Um,
how do
I
you
will send
feel
it.
about it? Like, and why can't we hear the first thing? Like, so the original track that then you interacted around, you said no
Hmm.
one will ever hear that.
Yeah.
Why?
Um,
Why can't we
well, I
hear
mean,
that?
I still have them, but I don't think I did anything special in those. I think for me it was like grounding in the etude.
Hmm.
Um, there's one or two of them that I think I have a good take that I like, but I wasn't trying to get a great take.
Okay.
So I don't think I did a second take on any of those. I think that I like just did one on
Yeah.
playing down the page.
Uh-huh.
And so there were mistakes and there were moments where like it wasn't what I would want it to be, but I kept them partly because I wanted that too. But there are other versions of those that people have really put more work into that are out there. There's
Okay.
not a lot, right? Like you would think that there would be 15 albums of Roshu etudes. That
Yeah.
there's not, but there are some things out there that I think are really beautiful and great. And so I don't feel the need to put a take that I'm like, yeah, that's okay, into
Yeah.
the world on that front.
Yeah. That
And
makes sense.
what I did feel like was mine that I wanted to share was the idea that's based off of it, and that, you know, like the trombone friends that are listening to this might be able to recognize, like, oh, that's that part of this one. I know that.
Ah,
But if you're not a
neat.
trombonist, it's gonna just sound like a short improvised piece. Um,
Right. This is really interesting. I thought of this when I interviewed do you know Megan Boutin?
mm-mm.
Um, Dr. Megan Boutin is a trombonist, and she teaches at Texas A&M Commercial, I think is what it's called. And we did a duet. We used a software where we could do the duet playing, and she chose a Pedersen etude for us to do a duet. And uh, that's not my thing. Okay, so I'm more of an improvisational based musician, and I thought what would be really cool is to have her play a piece and I improvise around it.
Mm,
Um, uh, we didn't get there. We just did the duet instead. But what you've done is like it sounds. Uh, I can't find the word. It sounds really, really awesome. That's not a great word, but I've always wanted to do what you did, like
yeah,
because I'm always improvising on a
yeah,
theme, and even the music I did on my album Live at the Last Hotel, when I hear it now, I want to improvise further with it,
yeah,
or I want to do more variations or something.
yeah,
Um, so I want to make sure we get to hear or we get a link to what you did.
yeah,
That sounds really fantastic. How do
yeah.
you feel when you listen to yourself? Like when you
Yeah.
were listening back, how did you feel about it?
Mhm.
What was coming to your mind when you were hearing yourself in that setting?
Yeah, I did some listening right away, and then I sort of put it away for some time until I had another like block of time to do the editing. And then I had this process where I listened to all of it. And then I listened to the winning takes a lot of times.
Uh-huh.
And then when it was done, I like listened to it again, right? I've done that a couple times at this point. And I like it. Like there's something where it's like it's really lovely to listen back and be like, "Oh yeah, I like that idea. I like what I did with that." And which is not to say that it's perfect trombone playing, right? But it's something that I like. And it's only one of the choices, right? Like for any one of these, you could create something that's completely different. Um, One of the things that inspired the idea additionally is that like when I'm improvising in a more traditional improvisation setting, people will often the comment I most get that I like the most is people will say, "You play so melodically," and my only explanation for that is like, oh, it's because I've like practiced these etudes so much, right? Like I imagine trombone players have the sense of melody from the work that we do with this repertoire. And so the idea of like let's take away the other stuff and let's actually find some of that melody, I like as an idea. And I think, yeah, for any of the other trombone players out there, like try it, right? Like if you want to give this a try, like try it, see what you come up with. I feel like there's so many ideas and uh just thinking about style a little bit, like finding a bit of melody that you're excited about in something and then thinking about like, okay, well, how does this fit in a style, whether that's like an actual style or just something that you're thinking about. Like there's so many options and so many possibilities, and like that's fun to play with. And so I feel good about the set of options that I chose and published. And I also yeah, I think there's a way where I'm like, if I perform this at some point, which I might, I'm not going to play the same things. Like it's going to be totally different. And I kind of love that idea.
Right, totally. Did you do harmonic analysis of the etude and then improvise to it, or did you just go by ear and not really even think about, um,
Yeah,
that?
I did not keep the form, right?
Okay,
So
okay.
a lot of times there's a part of the melody that I took and then created a form with,
Oh,
um, and
very cool.
melodies that are adjacent and around it.
Okay,
Um,
that sounds
and some
really
of them
fabulous.
I like took multiple parts of the etude and created ideas about those two and wove them together, or three, or however many. Um, so sometimes there's like a part of the structure remains in conversation, but in a lot of them, I'm taking some melodic bit and then creating a new context for it.
Okay. Well, that sounds really exciting. I can't wait to listen to that.
Yeah.
When did you do that, and how did that come up? Like in your current life, you
Hmm.
did this, and so
Yeah.
how did that even, or how did you arrive at doing that, and
Yeah.
what are you currently doing? Yeah.
Yeah. Great question. So when I finished college, I moved to Oakland, California, and I lived there for about 15 years. There's the door. I will be right back.
Okay. You know what? Hey, I'm gonna close this out and send you a new link because we're running out
Okay.
of time.
All right. Sounds good. Yeah.
Um, Man, I just started the recorder too.
Cool.
Yeah, I see it in the Facebook Messenger window, and I'm like, whoa, that just really caught my eye. It's really
Yeah.
cool.
I getting some good photographs is awesome from this. Yeah.
Do you get to work with other artists like that in other mediums to do projects together, or
Yeah,
just curious?
sometimes. It's something that I like and like seek out, right? We um we missed our timing of window of like when we had time to do this. But like we had hoped we would release the album with like a photo exhibit of some of the work that she did. But we got to Carnival too soon, and so it was just like we don't have time to do it.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, the art is like she's incredible. So
Wow. Yeah, I've gotten to do, since I became a band leader a few years ago, I've
mhm.
been working with an artist who designs all my flyers, and
Yeah,
like talking with a person, well, he's actually a musician as well. So
yeah,
he gets how we talk about stuff, but like
mhm.
a a
Totally different.
non-musician,
Yeah,
right? I
yeah.
mean, I've just been really learning about that stuff the last few years. And my album, Live at the Last Hotel, was just choreographed. And,
Hmm.
the dancers, the three choreographers used tap, ballet, jazz, modern, um, all the disciplines. There's about
Yeah,
22 dancers, and they all talk about music differently than we
yeah,
do,
right.
like really way differently.
Yeah, it's so cool. Yeah, I love getting to work with folks across art lines.
So you were saying how you got to where you are,
Yeah.
Oakland.
So when I finished college, I moved to Oakland, California, for a job and became a community organizer and like took some time off playing and eventually came back to it. And When the pandemic hit, I was playing a lot, and playing with lots of different groups. Among them was this all women's big band called Mary Lou's Apartment. And we played the music of Mary Lou Williams and Melba Liston. And
Oh my
yeah,
God.
so great. Such a great book.
Oh,
Such a fun project. Um, and I was playing in a Balkan Brass Band and playing baritone there. So
Balkan?
that was super fun.
Did you say Balkan? A
Mhm,
Balkan
mhm.
brass band? Because
Yeah.
you just spit that out and kept going. I'm like, whoa, whoa,
Wait,
whoa,
what? Yeah.
hold on. How
Yeah.
did you get into a Balkan brass band?
There's a interesting Balkan brass band scene in the Bay Area. And
Wow.
I sort of went looking. There's a couple bands around, and I went looking. Like I'd like to do this. Anybody looking for a baritone player? And of course, everybody's always looking for a baritone player. So there was an opening
Well,
before long, and I was like, "Yep, I'm in." Um,
is that stuff written out or learned by ear?
sometimes, sometimes, um,
Okay.
yeah,
Because that stuff is crazy stuff, right?
yeah,
Odd time signatures and
mhm. Yeah. But the baritones are always playing a rhythmic backing part, right? That sort of thing,
whoa.
right? Like there's a pattern. The
Okay.
one that I just sang is not actually one of the more traditional ones, but like that sort of
Okay.
thing is there. And sometimes
Uh,
it's just an upbeat, but it's like the driving rhythmic engine. So I was uh, yeah, part of what I was interested in was like really getting to be in that rhythm section role and thinking about like how are we driving the energy and the harmony. And then the trumpets and saxophones are playing complicated melodic lines on top of all of that. And there's like
okay.
some little counter melodies that we would play, but yeah, it's a different role,
Uh-huh.
which is fun.
Yeah. How did you just
I played in this street brass band for a number of years. And they played a whole variety of styles of music. I played for a while in a all women's Brazilian band that was called Gringa. We were all
uh,
non-Brazilian, but we played Brazilian music, so hence the name. That was just like really, really great. And that was after I went to Brazil for a little while and got sort of swept up into the world of carnival music.
mm,
Which there's a whole brass band tradition. That's when my ethnomusicologist partner comes in. He wrote a book about street brass bands in Rio, and
wow.
yeah, super fun stuff. And so I got to go and just be a trombonist and like play in a bunch of groups and learn the repertoire. And there's all these marchinhas or little marches that get played for carnival. Um, and there's like a standard repertoire, and then there's groups that play rock and roll or play, MPB, Música Popular Brasileira, or Brazilian popular music from like the 60s and 70s. And just like a whole bunch of other stuff. It's when I learned Portuguese. So when I moved here and like landed speaking the language, different accent, had to adjust, but like speaking Portuguese. Um, and so yeah, then I was playing in a Brazilian band for a while in the Bay. And I was like my partner and I were co-leading a New Orleans like trad jazz band for a little bit there too, which was super
What does
fun.
he play?
He plays the trumpet. Um,
Okay. All right.
so yeah, we hope that our kid will pick the tuba and then we can have a good brass band.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
She might go with trombone. We'll see.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Or
we
something else.
always kind of hope for our kids, you know.
Right, right. She's 3.5 and she has one of those the P-bones make like a just straight horn thing that's not really a trombone that's made for little kids, and she can pick it up and buzz and do a nice
Wow.
free buzz and like she's got that down at this point. I feel really, really good about
Wow.
that.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's a good I've put a mouthpiece in front of someone's face and they blow and buzz their lips and it's a sensation that some people can't handle.
Yeah.
Um and like when you said before when you said you thought you were going to play clarinet and you picked it up and blew a note and it squeaked,
Yeah.
I thought you were going to talk about the sensation uh of how you put your mouth on the reed and the
Mm,
mouthpiece. Because for me, that's what made me say, "Oh my God, no,
yeah.
I can't stand that feeling."
Yeah.
Um, so sometimes we have this weird bias with our
Yeah.
bodies, and
Yeah. Yeah, it's an interesting thing, right? Like, I don't remember what the clarinet felt like, but I bet that that was true, right? That there was something that didn't feel good about it. When I was in college, I picked up a clarinet again and like learned to play the basics and I got far enough in music ed that I learned the basics of a lot of instruments.
oh,
And
that's right,
I didn't have any of
you have
that,
to do
like,
that. Yeah.
yeah, any of that stuff then, but like as a kid, probably that's true. Um, yeah.
Yeah.
So anyways, I had this sort of meandering path. I played a lot. I played my last gig on the March 10th of 2020, and I was 9 months to the day pregnant. Right, my due date was the next day.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
Played at Yoshi's with this with Mary Lou's apartment in Oakland, a famous jazz club.
Well, that's a
And
famous
I think
place.
I'm probably the most pregnant person to have ever played on that stage.
That's a record.
Um,
That's a really amazing venue. That's
yeah,
so cool.
super great.
That's
Super cool
so
to play
cool that
there.
you got to play at such a historic
Yeah.
venue.
Yeah, super fun. And you know, I'd planned some time off after that gig. It was like I was really happy to have that as like my send-off gig, you know. It's gonna be great. And then I was gonna take some parental leave and come back in, 8 weeks and play my next gig. And had stuff on the books and a pandemic hit.
Uh,
And
right.
so that was the end in the Bay. And so while we were locked down and had a baby, my partner got this gig in Lisbon, and we said, all right, we're going. And so we moved in the midst of the pandemic, and slowly
Wow.
things opened up. And it took me a minute to get my grounding musically here. And so the idea for this project was born in the time where I was like, I don't know who my musical people are, but I
Mm.
know that when I play, it leads to more playing. And so this is something I can do by myself, and let me go do it. Um, and so yeah, it really came out of that space. Um, and then, Carnival is big in some parts of the world. Lisbon has a large Brazilian immigrant carnival. And there's enough Brazilian immigrants here to like have a full, exciting, beautiful carnival. But there's not enough to have a lot of brass players who know the repertoire. And so
Really?
I find myself in this situation where I'm one of a few people who like know the repertoire and are ready to go. And so
Wow.
I've gotten to play a lot because of that. And met some really amazing musicians, and then that's led to some more playing. So I'm in a time of life where I seasonally am quite busy, and other times I'm not as busy, but have various different musical things happening here and there, and I'm okay with it being a little bit slower for this period of my life. But yeah, recording this album was like, all right, here's a project that I can do by myself, and doing it once has inspired me to think about like what are the other projects like that I want to do that are just mine that I can like be creative in and think about. Um, so the one this will be one of the first times I'm saying this out loud, but one of the ones I'm thinking about is there's this new book. I'm gonna grab it because it's sitting right here that came out recently called New Standards.
Ooh,
Do you know this book yet?
no.
The Women and Gender Jazz program at Berklee, led by Terri Lynne Carrington, put this book out that's 101 lead sheets by women jazz composers. It's fantastic. They're organized by style. So, like, if you want a blues, you go to the blues section. You want something in 3/4, you go to the 3/4 section. Which I'm like,
Oh,
all fake books should be organized like this. It's brilliant. Um,
totally. Yeah.
but it's got like a lot of cool stuff in there and by a lot of composers that I love. And it's not the tunes I know of theirs, so there's like this challenge
Oh,
to it.
that's
But
amazing.
it's another like cross artist thing, where I'm like, I want to figure out a way to mix mediums and think about like street art, of images of the composers,
Oh,
to like meet
yeah.
paste up on the street with a QR code to a video of or a recording of the tunes.
Oh my gosh. That sounds really cool.
So that's the thing I'm sitting on, and I have not yet started it, other than I've got my hands in the book and I'm like starting
That's
to
a
think
start.
about where to do it and what to make happen.
That's
But
yeah, so you have started it. You got the book
yeah,
and the idea sounds really fleshed out and really fabulous. Like I would love to it sounds like something I'd really be hanging on the release date for because I love how different parts of life can combine, and
Mhm.
and then just enlarge the experience of life.
Mhm.
Music with life, other parts of life.
Yeah.
It's all related. You can't take them apart from one
Yeah.
another. You can't detach music from and so that's just really um, fantastic.
Yeah.
I I wanted to ask this question before,
Mhm.
so forgive me for kind of going back to it, but when you demonstrated what you play on Balkan music, you did double tonguing,
Mhm.
and I really wanted to ask you about learning how to do that. What what syllables are you using, and then have you
Yeah.
ever tried doodle tonguing?
Yep.
So
Mhm.
uh, this is not only a challenge for me, but maybe for some other players out there. So I just wanted to see what's your story. How
Yeah.
did you learn multi-tonguing?
Yeah. So I took lessons from a trombonist named Chaz Baker when I was in high school, who put the Coprash Etudes book in front of me as well. That is
Okay.
like it's French horn players all play that one, and sometimes trombone players play it. And it has a lot of articulation challenges. A few years back I got it out again and I was like, wait a minute, I was playing this in high school? Like what was going on? And I reached out to him and he was like, yeah, like there's always something there you can learn. Like you had something to learn then, you have something to learn now. Um, but I remember working on those with double tonguing.
Okay.
Um, Obviously you could do any number of different things. And I remember, especially as a young player, being encouraged to try different syllables. So I spent some time trying taka taka taka. And I spent some time with dugga dugga dugga. Dugga
Okay.
dugga dugga works better for me. That's what I
Okay.
typically use, unless I'm in a situation that really needs something harder than that.
Okay.
Um, some of the stuff in Balkan music, I think that I need like the hardest tongue I can get. And so I probably move. I haven't actually thought about this in a while. I think I probably do move in some situations there.
Okay.
Um, I did learn doodle tonguing as a college student and was had lots of people telling me about doodle tonguing through those years.
Yeah.
Um,
Did you
and
use the Did you use the book that everybody uses? I'm trying to think of what his name is, but it's the one I was told to get. Or did you just learn it on your own?
I think that the book you're thinking of might be a Slide Hampton book. I don't know. I
I
know
have it
I
right
didn't.
here.
Okay,
Um,
what book are you thinking?
yeah. Let me oops. That was weird. Um, it's uh it's Bob McChesney.
Oh, I did not use that book then. I have seen that book more recently and played some stuff in it. That was cool.
This is,
Um,
I went on some forums, I guess, and said I
mhm.
want to learn to do doodle tonguing, but um, I really don't want to learn it because I'm afraid.
Um,
I've always been afraid that I can't do it. So, but I
oh,
need to learn it, and so everybody
yeah.
suggested this because it starts with such basic um,
Hmm.
bits and
Hmm.
stuff, but I'm having trouble. I get sort of down the road with it all, and then converting to like real music. I
Yeah,
a brain thing,
yeah,
and I'm locked up, and I
yeah.
can't do it. So I'm still struggling with that.
Yeah. I think so the concept of it is it's really just like moving your double tongue to just a softer, everything is softer, right? The doodle 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 doodle. It's just softer on your tongue. And so I think that in a lot of practice for me, I'm using just like a soft dugga dugga uh,
Ah, okay,
tongue. And
okay.
I really believe in the playing against the grain. I This is
Oh,
the thing that I'm just like obsessed with in my practice as a adult in the last 5 or 6 years.
me too, me too. How are you
Yeah,
doing it? Do you have
I
the David
love
Baker
thinking
book
about
or?
like practicing lip slurs across positions, and really thinking about doing that like slowly and then quickly, so that you're playing arpeggios, you're playing whatever kinds of things. And there's actually a few books out there on this. I'm not going to be able to list who they are at the moment. I don't think that I have them physically here, or maybe I just brought them back and they're still packed in this season. But like I've got them pre-pandemic, and they didn't make the cut of moving when we first moved.
Okay.
But there's some books that have like etudes that are written to practice that skill, which is an interesting thing. It took like a lot of searching of trombone method books to find some.
I have been looking, so
Yeah,
that would
I'll
be
see if I
great.
have them here, and if I do, I'll send you the names.
Okay.
With the thing that I found, there was like one that I really liked. I thought it was great. But I think it's like equally good to make up your own exercises. And so I don't have like a standard thing that I do, but I'll sit down to practice and I'll think about, okay, what's one of these that I could do, and then come up with it. And okay, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna go from here and then out and up and whatever the triangulation is to create something, and then do it in as many positions as it exists in, which sometimes is
Right.
only 3 or 4, right? Depending what the
Yeah.
thing is.
Yeah. Yeah.
But there's it forces you to use your alternate positions and get them in tune, and then you build in like a melodic memory for improvisation of like, oh, when I'm here, I can do this thing without having to use my tongue at all, and like to create this slur and create this melodic pattern. And I think for me as an improviser, I'm not I can do the thing where I'm reading a set of changes and thinking about what is the guide tone line and where am I going and what's happening, right? That's one way that I can improvise. But the way that I like improvising is hearing what's happening, not thinking about what note am I playing and what note am I going to, but instead hearing that melodic line, hearing what's happening in the changes, hearing what's happening in the extensions, and being able to find something. And so the more facility I have on the slide of like where things can go, the easier that is. And so that's like the place I want to practice, right? Like I want to put my time in working on that.
Yeah, that's fascinating. I have been on this against the grain thing personally for about 8 years, and I accidentally discovered the David Baker method, and I've been working through that. Previous, I had only found the Tom Malone book, and that's it. And so
Hmm.
I've been trying to create my own method based on jazz patterns that exist in solos that I'm trying to transcribe.
Yeah.
And I my what I keep getting blocked on is I can put slide numbers over the notes in using finale, right?
Yep.
Um, and so I could put slide numbers, but creating the notation of, first of all, the my when I was a kid, my teacher called it flat fifth.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that is a brain problem for me. So I'm not going
Right.
to put a flat sign in five because I
No.
just am not
Yeah.
processing like that. So I'm trying to devise like what do we call that? So I've
Mm-hmm.
started calling it S5, like short fifth,
Uh-huh.
versus long. Because trying to play the notes in tune, as you said, is
Yeah.
another layer of this. So here I am trying to create this notation, and not only the position number, but am I going out or pulling
Right.
in? So I've
Right.
been using like green for going out and blue for coming
Mhm.
in, but I'm like, this should not be this hard. I need to talk to somebody about this.
Yeah.
And you're the first person that I've met that's on this against the grain
Yeah.
thing. And
Yeah.
so, I would really love to be able to share knowledge or
Yeah.
just know what books you've seen.
Yeah.
Because I feel like that's the key for me. I want to play against the grain because, when I'm at a jam session and they call Cherokee, I want to be able to play it. And I know
Mm-hmm.
what I want. I hear what I want to play. And I
Mm-hmm.
know that against the grain playing will get me there.
Yeah.
but I want to know what I'm doing and be in control of it. And that's
Yeah.
where I have
Yeah.
fallen short of my goal, you know.
Yeah. I think one of the things is like we're learning the trombone is a lifelong endeavor, right? So we have the amount of control we have right now, right? And that's good enough to play some ideas that we can like. Um, right? Like that's a hard thing to embrace, right? It took me until I was 38 to release an album because it took me that long to be okay with that. Um,
We are so much alike. This
yeah.
is
So
except I'm like 15 years later. I mean,
it's all
I
right.
finally put
You get there when you get
my,
there, right? Like,
I put my
yeah.
album out in 2022.
Yeah.
So later in life, but
Yeah.
it's
Right.
interesting to hear you say that later in life you know
Yeah.
started, you know.
Yeah. My life is such that I don't play the trombone every day of my life. And it's taken me a while to realize that I'm still a trombone player every day of my life, even though if I'm not playing it every day.
Mm.
Um, and that every time I come back to the instrument, I'm a stronger player. I have to get over that, like, gotta practice a couple days to get all my range back and like get my tone solid, where I want it to be. Though my like sometimes I'll play a gig without having played a bunch, and people be like, "You have great tone." And I'm like, I don't think my tone's very good right now, but I'm not going to tell you that. I'm going to say thank you, and recognize that there's something that can hold, right, and that so much of what we teach as brass teachers is like you got to have the horn on your face every day. You got to like this is really important, and yeah, that's true. But also, once you've put in a whole bunch of work on the trombone, it's not that you forget it. And sometimes, like,
Hmm.
you know, we can get our high G in second position in tune in our ear where it's not really in tune, right? Like,
Totally. I
and you take a
totally know
while
what you're
off
talking
and your ear fixes itself because you listen to music and you hear that note where it's supposed to be and you pick up your horn again and you you move, right? And so I find that there are things like that that I can work out of my playing through these cycles of being on and off of the horn. Um, life is what it is. I don't have a choice about the on and off of the horn. Like that's going to happen either way. So how do I embrace that aspect of it? And I do find that like I when I pick up the horn again, I'm still advancing. Like I'm still growing as a musician, even on the days when I'm not playing every day. And that's
Wow.
not what our teachers tell us when we're kids.
No, it's not. It's
But it's
totally not.
true.
Wow, that is just it's fascinating that you're saying all this stuff. This is stuff that I'm just now learning personally.
Mhm.
My friend wrote a book called Musician's Dilemma. This
Mhm.
Stan Rubright, and you know, it's been a struggle for me to deal with a lot of the things you just said, which is I've told myself if I don't play trombone every day, I can't claim to be a trombonist and I'm a failure and all this negative self-talk, you
Yeah.
know. And I'm just learning what you just said, which
Yeah.
is I'm still a trombone player. Every day I'm
Yeah.
a trombone player, whether
That's
I'm
it.
playing the instrument or not.
Yeah.
Um, I
That's it.
didn't know I could like claim that
Yeah. Claim it.
until about 8 months ago, you know. So it's
Yeah.
amazing how the growth does continue,
Yeah.
like you said.
Yeah. My time in Brazil really was transformative. Part of what is happening there over these years. And I was there a while ago now, so it's different now, clearly, but it continues to grow. Is that there under the dictatorship, street carnival was really banned, and so carnival got regulated into what we think of with samba schools going through the sambódromo, this very like regulated. People pay for tickets to watch one form of carnival. But in post democracy, post dictatorship democracy, Brazil has had a like swelling of street carnival again. That's what my partner's book is about in a lot of ways. But there's all these people learning to play brass instruments and other things, but lots of brass and saxophone playing so that they can play in carnival groups. And so the way that that might work is you go to carnival in February this year and you see a bloco that you're just loving. And you, at the end of it, you go up to one of the musicians and you say, hey, I want to be part of this. And they say, great, okay, here, like follow this page on Instagram. We're going to post when our oficina, our workshop starts in a couple weeks. Go get your instrument, right? So then you go buy an instrument, and a couple months later, maybe April, you start going to group classes once or twice a week. And then you learn some of the songs, and the next February you play with them. And
Wow.
so very beginner players, they're like, I'm a trombone player. I'm playing for 100,000 people. Right?
Whoa.
Like
Oh my God. That's
0 to
incredible.
100 so quick. And so I met all these people who did not grow up playing brass instruments, picked them up as adults. Here they are, 25, 30, 35, 40, 50, 60, right? Picking up brass instruments and loving it, right? Spending multiple nights a week playing with their friends, hanging out on the street, like playing music. And like,
Whoa.
if
That's
that's not
incredible.
what this is all about, then what
Right.
is it, right?
What is
Like we
right.
can be the best players in the world, but if we're not having fun and loving our instrument, then what are we doing? And so we I think so much of like American, maybe to go as far as Western music education is really like based in this elite
Mm.
classical music orchestral kind of model.
Hmm.
But that's not the world I want. I want a world where lots of people play music. I think the honk festivals are a great example of like what's possible. I think there's lots of ways where like just get instruments in people's hands, and it doesn't have to be good. I
Yeah. It doesn't have to be
I
perfect, like the perfect ideal we're taught,
yeah,
um, by like the white man band instructor
yeah,
or,
right. It
uh,
doesn't perfect is I don't care about that, right? Like we we need to create music, and you get a lot of people playing together. It There's like an effect where you can't hear the mistakes, right? Like so
that's
you just
incredible.
play. And I
So that's really helped you grow then into
yeah,
who you
it,
are today.
it freed me up. It was both like an experience of learning to trust my ear because lots of stuff didn't have sheet music. There were lots of situations where it was like, oh, we're gonna rehearse, we're gonna do a parade right now. No, sit down and read it first. Like, here we go. And so I'm like hanging out with the other trombone players and playing along, watching their slides, figuring it out as we go, learning music on the fly. And I learned to trust my ear a lot. And then I also learned to just like trust that I'm a musician, trust that I'm a trombone player. And I love it when I get to practice every day and be playing at my absolute best. And that's not what I get all the time in my life. But I
Right.
still get to play. And
Hmm.
yeah.
That's really profound. And I'm seeing again that I'm about to run out of time. And I can't really think, though, of a better way to end because
Yeah.
what you just said is something I've just learned, which
Yeah.
is the music. Serving the music doesn't always mean perfection.
Yeah.
And it's for the love of music, which pulled us in the first place. And that's where I try to start every day now.
Yeah.
Um, and I don't hate myself so much. Um, I love to hear myself playing now. I never
Yeah.
used to. And for you to be talking like this is just, you know, um, amazing. Well, you're
Yeah.
articulating like what I want everybody to know, but we're not
Yeah.
really taught that stuff.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I I was taught not to play in the bathroom. I told my teacher, "Oh my God, I sound so good playing in the bathroom." I was like 9,
Yeah.
and my teacher was like, "Yeah, don't make a habit of that, and you won't hear your imperfections. You won't be able to work on, so I hated myself for 30 years or what, 40
Yeah.
years, and I just, um, well, anyway, that's a long story, but I mean, we're taught some wrong things along the
Yeah.
way. And
Yeah.
it seems like you've really come through all that and are in a
Yeah.
really amazing place. I can't wait to
I
hear
think I
your
had
album.
to, right? Like
Well, yeah, yeah,
I was the only woman in my jazz studies program, and I didn't
really.
really leave on good terms. It was a
Ah,
it was a very sexist space of students and professors,
mm.
and I didn't play for a while. Right? Like I quit playing,
Oh,
um, and I needed to find the way back to it, and that process was hard and like not always like I had my heart broken more times.
mm,
But the finding the places where I can make a musical contribution where it's welcome, right? Like finding the people I want to play with has really helped that. And um, yeah, I really want us to live in a world where everybody says, "Yeah, I'm a musician. This is what I play," right?
that's right.
And yeah, so finding my own like voice and claiming like this is my space to create. And I we live in a time when anyone can release an album. You just like
Yeah,
create a Bandcamp account and you upload some stuff and you put it out there, right? Like
right, right. Just for
um
yourself if you want.
yeah, right. You
Yeah,
know, maybe some people will buy my album over the years, right? A few people have already, right?
right.
But it's not a thing of I need it to be something else, right? Like I have another
Mm,
job, I work in other ways, right? Like I make my money there, and then I can pay for some hours in a studio once in a while to create in that way. And playing in the street, playing with friends, right? Like that doesn't cost anything. You just need your instrument, right? So make the investment, get your instrument that you want, and then like we live in a time where we can make music. So yeah, I want that for all of us.
that's beautiful. Uh, we're out of time, so that's a
Then.
great way to end. I love what everything you just said is what I aspire to. Um,
Yeah.
and so I'm sure what if people listen to this, they will be inspired by you as well. So
Yeah.
thank you so much, Claire. It's been great talking with you on Trombone Is Enough.
Yeah, thank you. It's been great to talk to you as well. It's been a fun conversation.
Me too. Thanks.
All
Now,
right. Bye.
I'll I'll like edit it to an
Oh,
end, but I have 1 minute left. Um, but for serious, what you just said is like it, I admire where you are. Like I aspire to get there. So
yeah.
I'm so glad that you verbalized so clearly. Like I just think so many musicians are struggling
Yeah.
at the same time when it's never been easier to get music out,
Yeah.
and
That's right.
anyway, so thanks
Yeah.
so
Yeah. There's a Brazil has a musicians day, and every day when that year comes around, like the WhatsApp groups I'm still in of the people who are just learning instruments, right? People say being a bad musician is still a musician. Happy
I love
Musicians
it.
Day.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Well, hey, thanks so
Okay.
much.
Thank you
It's
for
really
doing
been
this.
great.
It's great to
Yeah,
meet you.
I'll post it next week, so I want to
Sounds
get
good.
tags from you, like
Okay. Yeah. Let me know what
links
you
or
need and I'll
tags.
send it to you.
Okay, I
Cool.
will. Thanks, Claire.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
Bye.
Okay, bye.